Hi there, I'm Mary Susie from Bead Me a Story, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this beautiful scalloped rhinestone necklace. We're going to make this in 3 sections. This does use a pre-made chain on it, but of course, if you would like to, you can make your own chain to go with it. I hesitated to put this out for a long time because our silver jump rings were running a little bit fatter than they should. So I have a new size of rhinestone that I'm using in this in order to be able to bring the sapphire color to you. But if you would like to do this in other colors, please feel free to contact me, and I can provide you with some more information. These rhinestones could be used in our 4mm size if you choose to do your chain mailing in silver frost or gunmetal or something that's running a little bit smaller. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the very first step in this is to make a bunch of 2x2 groupings, and they're going to end up looking like this. Okay, so you can see if I fold this, this is just 2x2. Okay, and what I've done and what we're going to do is let it pop out like this, so that we have one on one side, one on the other side, and two in the center. Okay, so our first step is just to make some of these. So I've got my open rings and my closed rings, and I'm going to take my open rings and just go ahead and pick up 2 of the closed rings. Okay. And one more. Okay. So make a whole bunch of these. You're going to need 10 for each of the scallops, and there's 3 scallops, so you're going to need about 30 of these before we can start putting anything together. Okay, so to start my first scallop, and here's a finished one, I just want you to notice that this very first step is just basically putting a hanger onto the piece. We're going to start with the top row, so I have 5 of these laid out for me, and we're going to start with the very top row. So what I'm going to do is pick up one of these, and what I'm going to try and do is go through the one that's closer to me. So I've got a double in the center, and then I've got 2 rings on the outside. So when I talk about the one that's closer or further, I'm talking about these 2 rings on the outside. So this is very fiddly tiny work, and you're going to be able to see that, because you're going to see I'm going to struggle a little bit today. Okay, so see how I went through the one that's closer to me? So when it overlaps, that's going to be the one that's down underneath, and this is the one on top. That's the one that's sitting kind of on top of it. Okay, and again, this is my hanger piece. I will be pausing a little bit during this video to take my glasses on and off so I can see this better. I'm nearsighted, so I can see a lot better if I remove them. Okay, so we're going to close that little end piece, and then again, this is just our hanger. So we're going to actually flip the piece around so that it faces the other direction. Okay, and I want you to notice now that the one that's closer to me is now sitting on top of the one that's farther away from me. This is going to be very important that you maintain consistency with these rows. Okay, and just so you can see, on the top row and on the bottom row, once we do our scallop, the one that's closer to us is sitting on top. You can see it better in the bottom row, that the one that's closer to us. So as you pass through we need to make sure that we are maintaining this consistency all the way through. Okay. So now what we're going to do is, you can see that I have my my first piece, a rhinestone, and then I have a second piece ready to go and handy. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is pass through my very first piece, which is all sorted out as far as how it should be laying. Okay, and I'm going to pass through those two again. So see, my hanger's over on this side. I'm passing through the two that overlap on the other side. Now I'm going to pick up my new one, and I'm going to pass through the one that's closer to me and the one that's further from me. Okay, and I'll get it on there. And now I'm going to pick up my rhinestone. Okay, and now I'm going to grab this other pair of pliers. These are bent nose pliers. These have a really tiny tip on the end, as you can see. And I felt like when we're doing this top row, it's really tight. So it was worth getting out the little itty bitties. These are kind of like a bent tweezer nose plier. They have a really small tip. I recommend having them when you start getting into the smaller work. And these are a 450 BN bent nose plier. Comes in handy when you're doing really tiny stuff like this. Okay, so now if I lay this out, okay, can you see that we now have two barrel weaves, one over here, and you see that the one that's closer to the rhinestone is laying on top. The jump ring that's closer to the rhinestone and the two overlapping rings, that one is laying on top, and we want to maintain that the whole way through. Okay, so let's go ahead and do one more of these. Okay, pick up the piece. You can see again, I'm going through the one that's closer to me, and then the one that's further from me. Oops, not yet. Okay, the one that's closer, and then the one that's further. And then I'm going to put my rhinestone on, pass through it, and I'm going to bring in my teeny tiny little pliers to go ahead and close this with. Okay, so that's one more. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in another one. I'm going to pass down through here. Okay. I'm going to pick up my next one. I actually think I'm trying to give myself more space and grabbing it up high when I should be grabbing it more in the middle so I can get through these guys. But I do want you to see this is really tiny work. This is not a beginner project at all. Okay, see, I got through those two. I'm going to put on my next rhinestone. And close. Okay, so that's 3 rhinestones I have on there now. And we are going to need, as you can see here, we're going to need 4. So I've got 1 more to do. I just want you to notice these are the smallest size jump rings, and what I'm joining them together with is the medium sized in your kit. Okay, so I'm going down through the first 2. I'm going down because the one that's closer to me is sitting above the one that's farther from me. Okay, so now we're going to do the final one in this upper part of the row. Okay. Oops. Okay, got that one on pretty easily that time. And our rhinestone. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to finish off this upper edge with one of our small jump rings again. Again, this just kind of makes a little handle on the end of it so that when we're ready to link the scallops together, we have something easy. Okay, see how I just passed through those 2? Okay, so this is just barrel weave. But when you do it with the very small rings, it can become very fiddly to work with. Okay. So now you can see we have that entire upper row done. We have our little handle up here and our little handle up here. And now we need to do a lower row. But you notice we're not going to add any more rhinestones. We're going to be using the rhinestones that are already there. Okay, now starting into our bottom row, you see that these jump rings are the largest size jump ring that we have in our project. And I'm going to pass through my end piece that I had prepared for me with the handle on it. And then we're going to pass into this rhinestone, back out it again. And now we're going to add a new barrel piece. Okay, so again, going through the one that's closer to me and then the one that's further from me. That's just how, when I'm holding it in my hand, it's going to put everything in the right position for you. And if you want, you don't need to use these tiny little pliers anymore. So if they're uncomfortable for you, feel free to pick up your larger pliers again. Okay, let me get this all straightened out so you can see. Okay, so see how as we're starting on the bottom, we still have that one that's leaning closest to me is laying on top of the one that's above it. Okay, and we have 2 of them here, and we're going to keep building in the same way. So now I'm going to pick this up, and I want to pass through the second barrel, the barrel that I just added. There we go. Okay, so once I get it through, we're gonna come up here and get it through our rhinestone. Okay, and then we're gonna pick up our next barrel. There's really nothing wrong with that one, just, you know, sometimes your hands will not coordinate with you on certain ones. There we go. Okay. So now we're going to close, and that's one more added. And I do like to just lay them out in between and make sure that this this one that's supposed to be sitting on top is in the correct position before I go on to the next step. You can see each step of this is hard work, so you don't want to have to go back into the middle later. And see, that was that same one I threw back down, but much easier this time. Okay, so that's 3. And I've got one more. Okay, and there's that last one. Come on, stay on there. Okay. Okay, so see how we have that whole thing? Now I'm going to put this little end one on. Again, we need the handle on each of the end pieces to have something to link to. Okay, so I'll pass through that. Okay, and there we go. So I'll just show you that we have that one. Here's the one beside it. So if you kind of squeeze these together, you can see the benefit of having this larger row at the bottom, and then how we have the smaller, tighter row at the top, which is gonna eventually create our scallop situation to make it kind of drape. Okay, so you need 3 of these. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and make one more. If you need to back up the video and watch that whole section again to see how to make this part, make sure you have 3, and then we'll go on to the next parts. Okay, so I'm very happy to say that the hardest part is over, and the rest of this should be pretty smooth sailing, pretty easy to do. Okay, so you notice as I picked this up, I kind of pinched this between my fingers, and that's so that we get this little kind of a V shape, so that when I gather these up, they're kind of both angled in. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. Now I'm using the larger jump rings to link my rows together, because it's linking 2 rows, so to have enough room, that's what's going to work best. Okay, so I did 1 jump ring. Now that I've got the first one through, I'm going to do a second one. This is just for strength, really, not for any other reason. I'm going to pop that through here. Okay. Okay, so now if we look at this and we lay this back out with our bottom, okay, you see we've got two sections of this scallop linked together. So I'm going to use 2 more jump rings, and I'm going to link the second set of scallops to the third. Okay, make sure everything's facing in the same direction. That's important. But this part's very easy compared to all that tiny barrel weave we've been doing. Okay. And we're going to close. Okay, so our scallop is complete, pretty much. And now I want to show you, this is going to be our little centerpiece. This is pretty easy to work with. This is our medium-sized jump ring we had in the kit. And this has got 2 holes at the top and 2 holes at the bottom. So I'm just going to go, actually there is a right way and a wrong way to do this now that I'm doing it. So notice how the rhinestone is facing me. I want it to be away from me in order to do this better. There we go. Okay, so you can see now it's going straight through. Whereas when I was trying to do it with it facing me, because of how the jump ring's open, it's just a matter of that really, that you know, you're getting the best angle on it. So, you know, turn it around. If you're not getting it right straight through, you can try some things. Okay, so then we've got this piece to hang at the bottom, and all we're going to need for that piece is some of our smallest jump rings to link that to the center. Now I just want you to notice that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 large jump rings. And the reason I did the count the way I did it, of course you could make all of these scallops longer or shorter if you wanted to. That's not a problem. But I wanted to have an even number in the center, and here's why. Because I'm going to go to number 1, number 2, and I'm going to link this on. And I'm actually going to do this twice. This, more than being for strength, is for appearance, because you've got kind of that double ring happening in the barrel shape. So I'm going to have 2 jump rings over here. And then I want 2 jump rings going over to the next scallop. So this is how we're going to center this little centerpiece onto our scallop chain. Okay, that looks good. And one more. Okay, we'll go ahead and put this on. Okay, and now our entire centerpiece is ready. And the rest of this, we're just going to put it onto a pre-made chain. But let me just tell you that, you know, I do the pre-made chains to keep the kits a reasonable size. But if you really wanted to, you could certainly go ahead and pinch these together and just continue on with one of our micro-sized scallop chains, just the plain silver chain. And that would look absolutely beautiful too. So this just needs, you know, a smallish chain to finish going around the neck. Okay, so in dealing with our chain, I have my chain out here now. Just wanted to say that's a full thing. It already has its clasps on, so I don't have to worry about that. But what I want to do is pull it out from the clasp and pull it so that I can find about the midway point in this chain. Okay, and once I find that, you don't have to be exact, but close to it. I'm gonna actually have to remove 2 links from this chain in order to split it in half. So while I'm pulling out this first one, do not lose your place, because that could definitely create some confusion for you. Okay, let me get this other one. So see how I'm just opening these up. These are not soldered in, and the chain is doubled, creating the spiral effect, so it's really quite a pretty chain, but very easy to work with. Okay, so now I have two ends to this, and I'm going to bring in my scallop piece. So just like before, I want to pinch the ends together so I get that little TP, little V at the end. Okay, and I can actually pass through, if I want to, I can pass through two of these. Now, just a word of warning, I'm looking up at the top of my chain right now, and I can see that my lobster clasp is on, this is what I consider my left side right now, but of course when you put the necklace on, that'll be your right. So very convenient if you're right-handed to have that clasp sitting on the right-hand side. Okay. Oh, and we're almost done. Are you getting excited now? Almost finished. That was a lot of hard work with that barrel chain. Okay, and then pass through here. And pass through two of those. I like to pass through two just for strength. Okay, so there we have it. This lays really nicely on the neck. That was an 18-inch chain, but of course you're getting all these extra inches from the scallop. So this is just probably a little bit over 20-inch chain that we've got here. And you can see the scallop happening because of the larger rings around the outside. Nice little focal point. This is a nice dainty little necklace. Still shows off all the rhinestones. It's just an absolutely beautiful piece. It's fun to wear. You want to wear it kind of high up on the neck. This is not a long dangly piece. And so I hope you've enjoyed this project, and I hope you'll join me for another one in the near future. Thanks so much.